Okay, so growing up, one thing I realized is that if you have really strict parents, you will actually end up being more sneaky and more rebellious. Now, I think we all know when girls say they have daddy issues or when they have mommy issues, most of the time, the girl ends up being a real nutcase, which is not a bad thing, don't get me wrong, because growing up, I had really strict parents, so I even became a nutcase myself. But I will say it really led me to do some really sneaky things that I'm not proud of. But what this one girl did back that I knew in high school, well, I'm not gonna lie, I think she should be sent to jail or even worse. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy but also really weird story. Now, fair warning to everyone on YouTube that's watching this, I do not want to get in trouble for this, okay? This was clearly a story time. That's all I'm gonna say. Don't get me in trouble, because seriously, I've been in enough situations with the police to realize that me telling these stories on this channel could get me into some serious trouble. And to the people that are a part of the story time, because the stories are real. Hate to break it to you. But anyways, this story all starts off back when I was in high school, and this was actually my grade 9 year. Now, in grade 9, I was a pretty basic kid. Like, I wasn't anything serious, to be honest, and I was just getting into the player game of being, well, a total F-boy. Now, I will say I'm not proud of being an F-boy growing up in high school, but it led me to realize some things about women that not most men realize. But I remember one day in my grade 9 year, as I was walking down the school hallway, I was walking with a buddy of mine, and I remember we were about to walk past a group of girls until one girl out of that group ended up pulling out of the group and walking towards me and my buddy. She walked up to my buddy saying, "Hey, I got you the stuff." "Oh, okay, thanks." And they end up exchanging something that was in a little baggie. Now, I'm not gonna say what it was because obviously I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube. But one thing I will say was that it was definitely something that was not legal at the time. The reason I say that is because I'm in Vancouver and recently a bunch of stuff has become legal. Yeah, you know, it's a weird scenario, but going on. I remember after that exchange happened, she ends up walking away and my buddy ends up walking up to me saying, "Yo, Bubba, I got the stuff for the party tonight." "We're going to a party?" "Yeah, bro, you didn't know? I thought all the guys told you in the group chat." "No, I didn't know we're going to a party." "What'd you get from her?" "Bro, I got the stuff." He ends up pulling out, you know what? For this video, we're just gonna call it the devil's sugar. And you guys probably know what that means. Not trying to get in trouble. It's only the devil's sugar. But anyways, me and this guy, he ends up showing me this and I start panicking and I'm like, "Yo, like, you shouldn't have that at school. Like, what are you doing?" Because I was a pretty innocent kid still in my grade 9 year. But that's when my buddy told me, "Bro, you don't know what this stuff does, man. It makes your brain go faster." Dude, there's no way. "Yeah, man, trust. This girl gives it to me all the time. And how do you think I stay up all night playing Call of Duty with you guys?" At that moment, it kind of all made sense because all the times that me and my friend have played Call of Duty together late nights, he's always been the last one standing and always the last one awake and even plays when we all get off. It's actually kind of scary how, I guess, wired in he was. But that's when my buddy told me, "Yo, bro, if you ever like want to hit her up, bro, here's her number." He ends up pulling out a sticky note and writes down her number that he pulled out of his backpack. And he hands it over to me and I look over at the number and then I look over at her. And that's when I realized this girl may be really dangerous, but she's actually kind of hot, which is a really bad assumption to make. But at the same time, I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty down bad back in high school. Anyways, going on, I remember we end up going to this party that my friend told me about later on that day. And when we go to this party, I remember we end up like walking around meeting up with everyone. And then as I'm like talking to some girls, out of nowhere, I end up seeing this girl walk right past me at the party. I end up staring her down and I'm like, "Yo, like, that's her. What is she doing here?" Because I didn't know she went to parties in the first place. So I end up like walking up to her and I'm like, "Hey, so what you doing here?" "Oh, I'm just here on a job." "Oh, okay, cool. "Oh, what's the job?" "Oh, I just have to like pass this stuff around and pick up some money." "What are you doing here? I didn't know you go to parties." I mean, I don't know. I usually don't, but I mean, now I'm here." Which was totally true back then for her to make that statement because, to be fair, back when I was in grade 9, like I said, I was a pretty still innocent kid. So me getting invited to parties at that time wasn't really happening until like my grade 11 to 12 year. Or actually even my grade 10 year, I got invited to a lot of parties. But that was like when I was like really down bad. But anyways, I remember this girl ends up pulling out her purse and she starts pulling out these bags full of devil's sugar. And I just end up staring at her like totally like freaked out that she has so much on her. And that's when this girl ends up telling me, "Bubba, what are you doing? Do you have like a problem or something?" "No, do you need help with that?" Bro, when I said that, I regretted it so much because I remember literally that same moment. She looks at me kind of tilting her head and she's like, "Fine, but you don't get percentage." Yeah, no, I don't need percentage. I'm good." "Okay, perfect. Hand out these bags and make sure you pick up $20. Nothing less, okay?" Yeah, no problem." So I end up going around this party, passing around these bags, right? Of devil's sugar. And I'm panicking out of my mind thinking, bro, what I'm doing is extremely illegal and my parents would kill me if they saw me doing this. By the way, fair warning to everyone, don't do what I do. Seriously, these stories are purely entertainment purposes. But I remember I ended up passing it around anyways, and I want to say like half an hour later, I ended up meeting up with the girl again in front of the house, and I look at her handing her a bunch of cash that I just got from a bunch of students at my school. I ended up saying, here's everything. Oh, wow. Okay, good day today. We made like 250 profit. Yeah, that's pretty good. She ends up looking at me and she ends up giving me $20 in cash, and she's like, thanks for your work today. No problem. So what are you doing now? And right as I asked that to her, the most insane thing ends up happening because we end up hearing police sirens. Literally, we end up hearing like crazy sirens go in, and we're like, yo, what in the world? And I start freaking out, and I remember I look at this girl, and this girl puts the cash so quickly inside her purse, and she runs over to me. She grabs me by my wrist and pulls me into a bush. Literally the bush that was like in like the front yard of the house area. But I remember the cops ended up parking in front of the house and they shut down the party. Luckily, when the cops ended up going inside the house, me and this girl, we ended up escaping, and we ended up going from the backyard into the woods, and we ended up going to her vehicle that she had. At this moment, I realized that this girl was way older than me. If anything, I think she was in her grade 12 year and I was in my grade 9 year. So as you guys may know, there was a bit of a 3-year age gap between me and her, but I didn't see an issue with it. We were all in high school anyways. And I remember I ended up going inside this girl's car, and me and her, we end up going back to her place. I ended up asking her, oh, do you not want to like drop me off home? What? Are you kidding me? No, you got evidence all over your hands. I gotta sanitize you. Sanitize me? What is that even supposed to mean? And I remember when we got to her house, she ended up living in actually a really good neighborhood, a neighborhood that most people dream of living in. And I remember when we ended up parking inside her garage, she ends up taking me upstairs to her bedroom. But as we're going through this house, I realized looking around that this girl had the perfect family. Her mom was a dentist. Her dad was a lawyer. For some reason, like everything in the house didn't scream what she would project at school. Like I thought she was gonna be like some girl that lived in like a shack, you know, trapping and dealing, you know, being all scary and stuff. But in reality, this girl was really just a normal girl living in a normal world, except the fact that she, you know, sold things that she definitely shouldn't. And I remember when we entered inside her room, she had like the most pink girlish room I've ever seen, and it screamed nothing of what this girl usually showed at school. But that's when I looked at her and said, huh, this is kind of weird. What's weird, Baba? What's wrong? Nothing. I just didn't expect you to, you know, be such a girly girl. I'm not a girly girl. This is all like my parents. Just don't worry about them. They're just weird. Speaking of your parents, where are they? Oh, they're on vacation. They're working on like a project together or something. I don't really know, but it doesn't matter. I don't want them here anyways. Why not? What's wrong with your parents? Nothing. They're just super strict and super dumb, and they get in the way of my business, and I don't know. Parents just suck, okay? I know for a fact I would be such a good parent without them. It's really funny because I feel like every teenager has said this, but be honest with me. Have you guys ever said that you're going to be better parents than your own parents? I'm gonna be honest. You guys may say that now, but when you actually become parents, you're going to be regretting and understanding why they are the way they are. But anyways, I remember this girl ended up taking me to her bathroom, and she ended up pulling out the sanitizer that she had, and she made me wash my hands very carefully, to the point where she made sure I cleaned under my fingernails. I was really worried, but then I looked at her again and I'm like, hey, so I have a question. If your parents, you know, are all like, you know, strict and nice to you and stuff, why are you, you know, doing what you do? I don't know. It just was an easy way to make money and stuff. You don't seem like you need money. Like, look at you. You live a great life. There's something called earning your money, okay, in this world, and you gotta earn life, okay? I don't want my parents hand me everything. I'm not a loser. To be fair, I kind of understood where she was coming from, how she didn't want handouts from her parents and, you know, make her own money her own way. But doing it illegally, if anything, I'd rather have given money than dirty money. But anyways, I remember after washing my hands and having that whole conversation with her, I ended up heading towards her front door. And that's when this girl looks at me and says, are you leaving? Well, yeah, I gotta go. Oh, well, like my parents won't be here till like, you know, tomorrow afternoon, and it's a Friday night. Do you want to like maybe like, I don't know, stay over? Sure, yeah. So I remember me and this girl, we ended up going back up to her bedroom, and we ended up laying down in her bed. And well, as you guys may guess, yeah, one thing led to another. Me and her, we actually ended up doing the devil's tango. And I remember after we finished, we ended up laying down beside each other, not wearing anything. And she looks over at me and turns her head and says, Baba, can I ask you one favor? Yeah, what's up? Can you make sure not to tell anything to anyone about, you know, where I live and stuff? Oh, obviously I won't tell anyone. I don't want you to get in trouble. No, but like, it's more than that. Just like, don't tell them the way I live, you know? Okay, is what I told her. And from there, we ended up sleeping until the next morning. The next morning, I remember waking up to a door slamming, and I ended up realizing it was her bedroom door, and her parents got home earlier. And I started panicking, and I'm like waking up with nothing on. I'm like, oh my goodness, what are you doing here? And that's when I ended up seeing her own mother look at me as if I was crazy, saying, excuse me, what are you doing here with my daughter? Who are you? the friend from school. And that's when this girl ended up getting in serious trouble. And her mom started yelling at her saying, how could you do this? Like, why would you invite a person over? Mom, it's not like that. You don't understand. Like, he's a friend, okay? You don't understand anything I do. She starts having like this panic attack. And well, one thing led to another. Her dad was like totally a cool guy. And he ends up actually just walking me out of the house and saying, sorry about that. My wife gets kind of tense sometimes, but just head home and, you know, we understand you guys are just kids. Okay, cool. And I ended up walking 45 minutes just to get home. When I got home, I remember my parents looked at me and they were all worried and everything about me and stuff. And I realized that my parents actually ended up grounding me for being out so late. And in my mind, I overall just started to understand that if you have strict parents, appreciate them because they obviously only want what's best for you.